Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Returning listeners, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. Awesome guy coming on tonight. His name's Scott Darragh. He is a pilot, commercial airline pilot, but also has his own business where he does fitness and metabolic coaching and training for people. And super interesting story on how he got into that. And he does a really good job, very compelling speaker, and very passionate about helping people build healthier lives. And really excited to have him on the show to talk about his experiences and his business and how he works with people. So without further ado, let's bring Scott onto the program now. So Scott, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk tonight. Great to have you on board.
Happy to be here. Excited to kind of share a little bit about who I am and what I'm about. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And we had a great conversation. It was a while ago now because your schedule is both busy and ever changing based on one of the things that you do. And
Yes,
so you're a commercial airline pilot,
that's correct.
as well as a fitness trainer. And I think it's more than fitness trainer. How do you describe it?
Yeah, so I would describe it as a fat loss and metabolism coach right now.
Yep.
I think that's obviously building muscle is a part of that, but really, fat loss has kind of become more and more important. It's been kind of an epidemic, I think, and as time goes on with, food companies need you to consume more. And you can look around and see the differences between now and like 1950, right? It's economies of scale and growing big food, but it's growing big people, and it's a problem. And so I would say I'm a fat loss and metabolism coach because that's the biggest need right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I went through your website fairly extensively just to be prepared
Sure.
for our conversation. And I was like, yeah, Scott does way more than, and I'm like, I'm not downplaying or dismissing the fitness part of it for sure, but it's way more than that. So I'm very interested to have this conversation. What we usually do, so like our podcast is all about people taking control of their lives. That's the entire point
Yeah.
of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so we have all sorts of different guests on and they have great experiences and they talk about those experiences. So what we ask our guests to do is just kind of walk us high level through where you started, where you're at, to where you're at now, broad strokes. Then we go back and do deep dives on some of the more important points and the points where you learned things and the points that have made you who you are today. And so yeah, that's usually how we start. If you're willing to, I
Easy.
turn it over to you and you can
Yeah.
tell us who you are, and then we'll do the deep dive.
Easy. Yeah. I'm Scott. I'm an airline pilot right now, but I think the best way to say how did I get here is because I didn't want to sleep outside. And what I mean by that is more of a hook as well. But I grew up in sunny Southern California outside of LAX in the South Bay. I grew up in a good area with good schools. And if anyone's lived in Los Angeles, have been around Los Angeles, it's a fairly vapid culture and fake. And if you've ever read, Catcher in the Rye, I love that book with Holden Caulfield and Phonies. I kind of was an angsty teenager who was like, man, this is can I cuss on the show? I forget. Yeah.
Talk and a.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, this is some fake ass bullshit here. You got these kids, they're all going to the University of Spoiled Children, USC, and their moms and dads are handing them BMWs in school. And I was fortunate to go to that school. It was a good school, but I was not that kid. My parents they were physicians, but honest living in Southern California. I tell you what, it's so expensive out there. And I just was, around end of middle school, beginning of high school. I was like, you know what, this is some fake ass bullshit. I was always into sports. I played hockey all the way through college. I played high school football, and high school football kind of taught me really kind of it was the first like wow like I can be my hard work matters and I can transform my identity through hard work. And also in school too, I had a fantastic history teacher in Mr. Rucker, which is kind of ironic with his name. I'll tell you why. But Mr. Rucker, he taught me how to use flashcards as a 13 and 12-year old to just
Mm.
crush school. And that led to some good grades, some honor roll. And I was looking at the military kind of the end of high school thinking like, hey, that's where I can find something tangible and real away from and more of like a altruistic meritocracy where your hard work goes somewhere.
Yeah.
You're not given anything, you kind of earn it. and see where I end up. And that was kind of the real quote unquote thing I was looking for. And it was a big reason why I went into Army ROTC at Washington State and sought to become an officer and shoot to be someone, right? Because, as young men, we're all struggling with our identity, and we kind of see our first occupation or our first major or our first course of study as a means to find out who we are. And I thought the military would be a great crucible to become a man, right? And
Sure.
that was kind of what looking back where I was. And I was always into sports, always in athletics. Um, Long story short, there's a lot of fake ass people in the military. A lot of fake ass people everywhere. That's the big joke, is I realized no matter where you go, you're gonna have good and bad, fake and real, tangible, untangible things. And in the military, after I graduated with a history and journalism degree, doing some, field training exercises, FTXs, if anybody's in the military out there knows it's not camping. And I didn't camp growing up. So it was my first exposure to being stuck outside in the wilderness of Idaho in October when it's snowing. I was like, fuck this. There's no way I'm going into the military to play Cowboys and Indians, outside. It's just not for me. So didn't want to sleep outside. To catch you up to my first statement, I thought, well, flying helicopters would be cool. Those guys don't sleep outside as much. They do sleep outside, but they're taken care of a little bit better. Not by much, but enough to where I was like, all right, and it looks like fun. I was like, yeah,
Sure.
looks like fun. Let's see if I get it. And so I competed, you got to go through a board. You got to take at the time, the AFAS, the aviation, whatever, fitness assessment, whatever. Do well in school. They don't just take anybody. And so was an honor roll student. I played college hockey. I was a team president I did checked all the boxes, type A type things, trying to jump through all the hoops so I can kind of determine what I did in the military. And I was lucky to find a spot flying helicopters out of Fort Lewis. Um, Fast forward there, I was so happy. I went to Fort Rucker and used those flashcards that Mr. Rucker taught me. That was and I was distinguished honor graduate in my class just from flashcards. Just,
Yeah.
you've seen Forrest Gump, right?
Oh yeah.
Remember when he gets the boot camp and he's with Bubba and he's like just crushing, disassembling that M16, and that drill sergeant comes over. He's like, "Gump, why did you take apart that weapon so quickly?" He's like, "Because you told me to." He's like, "God damn it, Gump, you're gonna be a goddamn general someday. If I wasn't so pressed for OCS, I'd be putting you in And he's just like praising him, right? And it was so funny because my army experience was just like that. Start in flight school. Just literally do what they tell you, and you immediately stand out from the rest of the people. And that's, I think, not just the military, but once again, it was proof to me that just do what they tell you, do it the best you can, and things work out. And it did. They handed me a letter like last day of school and said, "Oh, you're a distinguished honor grad." I'm like, "Really?" I didn't, pilots are full of hot air, right? So everyone's the best. So you don't know how your classmates are doing. Everyone's just always talking a big talk about how great they are. And I never was that person. So I just thought I was middle of the pack, whatever. And turns out had a better scores than they did across the board. So graduated there, started flying in the Army Guard, so I had to have a real job, and I realized that that's really hard to find a real job in Seattle with a history degree and journalism degree, and all my experience is Army helicopters. So I did what you call as guard bum, where you kind of just panhandle for flight time, try to get the orders here to help in the office there, and eventually that led to a deployment. And that was in 2014, 15. We did Kuwait and Iraq during kind of the ISIS push under
Mm.
Obama. And when I was there, I had a near-death experience that kind of changed my life. And I think that's why you reached out to me first, right? Because one of those videos stood out to you.
Well, it's one of the things you listed in your bio. I thought there was a
Yeah.
lot of interesting stuff. Like the aviation industry has always been interesting to me, even though I'm not in it. And
Sure.
then talking about a near-death experience, and then I found out about the metabolism and fitness coaching. I was like, fuck, there's just so much to talk about. We got to get him on here.
Yeah, we're halfway through to this point. I'll go faster if you need me to.
No,
But
no, we got plenty of time.
okay. So, in short, the near-death experience was, if you're in the aviation field, it's called CFIT, control flight into terrain. It's unfortunately, a common safety issue with pilots, especially in the helicopter world, because we're generally lower to the ground, doing more, especially in the military with Blackhawks that I flew, we're doing tactical stuff. There's wires, there's trees, there's hills. You got to really kind of keep your head on a swivel. And I was not having a good time on deployment already. Leading up to that, I, I was an addition to the unit that went, and they didn't like the state I was from. But even though their state was California, so I was originally a Californian, but out of Washington,
Yeah,
and it was just some high school bullshit, man. They were just like, "Oh, you're a Washington guy, okay," and so you're bottom of the list for the flight schedule. You're just the I was an officer, so I was a lieutenant, and they're just like, "Oh, you're just a lieutenant from Washington? Yeah, you're not gonna fly. You're gonna go do that." And I was like, "Fine, I'll sow my oats. Just tell me what to do. Have a good attitude." And eventually, they kind of got to this point where they're like, "All right, we got to fly this guy," because after flight school, you have to go through what's called progression, which is the equivalent of your learner's permit. We have to fly around with your parent or drive around with your parents before you can officially get your driver's license. It's similar to
sure.
that. Most aviation and professional aviation, you have a period of which you're new. Everyone knows you're new. You got to fly with an instructor, and they got to sign you off and say he's a real boy at some point. Well, that can had been kicked down the road now for almost a year. It's just unfortunately not always uncommon in the military, especially for officers, because they don't see you as real pilots. Those are the warrant officers. They get the real pilot jobs. You're just an officer who gets to fly once a month like a carnival ride. That's kind of the attitude I was up against. Like you're just supposed to be in the office, Scott. We'll let you fly and do your thing to make you feel good, but you're not a real pilot. And that just irked me. Like that irked me so bad because I didn't get into the army and do all SEER school, Dunker school, do all the crazy crap just to fly a desk. And I know all the other officers out there kind of, if they've ever heard that, they're shaking their head with me. And so I wanted to not, I wanted to be a good officer, but I also wanted to be a good pilot. It wasn't that I didn't want to do the officer stuff. I just wanted a fair shake. Anyway, so why I'm saying all that is that a lot of this angst of I'd do anything to fly at this point. I'm in country. I want to be a real boy. Put me in, coach. That was my attitude. Put me in, coach. So I finally got this opportunity this one evening. It was a red illume night, meaning there's no moon and the desert. It's dusty, and it was a particular dusty day because there was like a haboob, which is like those dust storms that came
Mhm.
through. And when you fly under NVGs in those conditions, you're really just kind of going into green soup. You don't really see a whole lot, especially because it's the desert. There's no real terrain. And I had a training flight that day where I was being evaluated as kind of the mission planner per se, where I tell the pilot where to go, turn left 180 degrees for 5 minutes at 80 knots. And they were evaluating me to get to this fictional target within plus or minus 1 minute. It's like terrain flight navigation under Blackhawk, low level tactical stuff. It was in a safe area, Kuwait. It's a training mission. It wasn't a real mission because I hadn't been signed off yet, right? I wanted to get signed off so I could be a real boy. And this was one of the last tests I had to do under night vision goggles to do it. So I am not going to say, you know what? It's dark and dusty. We shouldn't fly. That was not going to come out of my mouth because I've been waiting for months for this opportunity. And so I went out with the instructor and we went out and started doing the thing. And I prepped for it, went on the flight. It was dark, but it's the first time I'd ever flown in those conditions. So I'm new. I don't know if it's dangerous or not. I'm like, hell yeah, we're doing it. And long story short, we had a slight descent. We're going 100 knots at 100 feet and low level tactical flying. And the instructor was flying, also evaluating me, but flying, and he was kind of fiddling with the different position lights on the aircraft, the IR lights, so we could see better. And he got distracted and had this like slight descent in. And I was focusing on other things like direction, heading, where's the next point? Are we on time? Doing quick calculations, making sure that I'm going to do well on the flight because I'm being evaluated. And I didn't capture the descent until the crew chief in the back saved our lives and just happened to have a bad feeling and kind of looked down. and he could see the ground coming up at us. And he,
Oh, Jesus.
Mike was like, climb, climb, climb. And I remember stopping everything I was doing and kind of looking up, and I could see through the chin bubble in the Blackhawk. There's chin bubbles, so you can see the floor beneath you. I could see the desert floor beneath us going at 100 miles an hour. So I'm seeing
Oh,
scrubs rush, and I'm like, oh shit, we're about to die, And thank God the instructor pulled up. I grabbed the controls too to pull up, and we kind of pulled out of this descent before we hit anything. And I was a maintenance officer at the time, so I pulled the data from the aircraft, and it showed that we got down to 88 knots at 1 foot, according to the
good
radar.
God.
So if there was a camel there, we would have hit it.
Yeah, right.
If there was a fence there, we would have hit it. And we didn't. Thank God there was nothing there, and we didn't hit anything. But I very easily we could have just hit the floor, tumbled, lots of moving parts on a helicopter. It's not good. So scary. Finish the flight. That instructor proceeds to have an ego trip, start blaming me for the near accident, saying that I was unprepared and that he's not going to sign me off. And he can try again next time. And at the time, I didn't really care. I was just happy to be alive, and it's like, all right, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna leave. And it was super traumatic. And the next day, then like the high school bullshit, now they're starting these rumors behind my back. Oh, don't fly with Scott because he might get you killed. Like all this crazy like high school rumor shit between the pilots that, remember, didn't like me to begin with because I wasn't
Right.
part of them. And it was horrible. And I felt horrible. I couldn't I wasn't going to let it go. I went to my superiors and I said, this is what actually happened. Why aren't we talking about this? It's not my fault. It just happened. I'm not even blaming the instructor. It's an accident, near accident. It happens. Even the best aviators crash sometimes. It's a learning experience. It's the way it should be. But they buried it. They wanted no one to talk about it. Their ego was so upset because it was the SP, the lead instructor guy, nearly had an accident, and he did everything he could to bury it. And every step I went up the chain of command, it just stopped, and it just left this horrible taste in my mouth. I'm like, why the fuck am I here? I work too damn hard for these fucking idiots and their egos to not want to learn from this, and they're so fragile that they can't even talk about this accident. I went all the way up to Department Evaluation of Stands in the Army, DES, who happened to come on a surprise visit. They come and audit, aviation units, just like any safety OSHA thing. They come and look through your records, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, DES is here. We got to make our shit look good, right?" And so I'm like, "Fan fucking tastic." And so I walked right to their office, said, "Hey, sir, by the way, this date at this time, I flew with this person, and this is what happened." And they're like, "Wow, okay, yeah, we need to go investigate that." Nothing ever happened. And it just really kind of gutted my opinion about the military because I was like, I'm trying to do the right thing. Not trying to get people in trouble. I'm just trying to get the truth out. And it just gutted me. I was just like, I'm doing all the right things and it's just getting swept under the rug. And I'm like, my life is more important than that. And the soldiers I'm in charge of, and the lives of the other pilots who I was with. And it just left this horrible taste in my mouth. And it just taught me, once again, there's fake ass fucking people everywhere.
Mm,
Even in the military, where you have all of this institutional bureaucracy that's designed from doctrine to avoid this bullshit, there was just too much ethical fading going on at that point within the organization to actually enforce any of it. And so I felt like I had two options, and it kind of defined I had 4 more years left. I left as a captain. I was a lieutenant there, but it showed me the military, my experience, not saying anyone else's experiences like this, that as an officer in particular, you got put in positions where you either could do the right thing and be a martyr and personally suffer for trying to do the right thing, or go along with everything else, railroad your guys, get promoted, and get rewarded for that. And it was just unsustainable for me. And so eventually that led to me looking at another job, and thankfully the airlines were hiring, and I was lucky enough to kind of make that transition to start flying airplanes and fly for a regional. Um, And that's a totally different lifestyle. And that's where I started seeing, the health effects of flying. And that's when I was like, you know what? Like, I'm terrified of being a fat airline pilot. Like, I always cared
Mm.
about fitness. And at this point, I was in my late 20s, and I was like, I need to do something about it. And so I actually hired an online coach, learned a whole bunch about fitness, lost a lot of body fat, learned some fundamentals with food, and it changed my life. And I just got more and more into it to the point where I was like, you know what? I can do this because the coach I was with wasn't an airline pilot. They're usually full-time coaches, right? And I was like, well, if I can do this, I need to teach other pilots or other people who travel or other people in general who struggle with this. And with my experience, not only from like, college sports and having that background, but how do you be just an average Joe adult and not succumb to the real threat of your job affecting your health, especially as you get older? And multiple careers have this issue, right? You become 30, you're working in an office. My brother does finance, he's running around with his head cut off in an office. He doesn't have time to eat right and, exercise the way we used to in our 20s. And so that critical transition, is kind of a fork in the road for so many people. You choose to make a living or you choose to take care of your body. And so many people feel like you can't have both.
Mm.
So that's why I wanted to start my company, Jet Set Trainer, was to show people you don't have to sacrifice your health for your job. It just requires you to work with someone who does both and does it in a flexible, sustainable way. And I just think that's a huge problem in the fitness industry is that you have people who love fitness and that's their career, but they struggle helping people with real jobs because they don't know what it's like.
Right.
They chose deliberately not to go that direction because they value their health, they value fitness. So they made that their career. Whereas me, I'm not giving up my as an airline pilot, but that doesn't mean I can't help other people with fitness or reach my goals. And so, that's kind of, I guess, the long story short of how I got to where I am. It's like how to communicate with people, how to help people, how to show some leadership from the military was something I'll never forget, and I'm really glad I did it. But also kind of come into my own as a man and really be myself and just lean into who I am and not really care about what people think about me. That was another big lesson I learned from that deployment experience. Is like I could have lost everything at 26. And I asked myself, did I do everything I wanted to do? Like, have I been holding out on myself? And I had been. And so, other things I got into when I got back from deployment, I got into dancing. I taught ballroom dancing for a little bit. I met some really great people. I moved. I moved all over the country to fly and just follow my dream and to be independent with this and not rely on the government, not rely on the army to fly, but go get my flying career somewhere else. Um, and so all of that experience has taught me to kind of, from the beginning, from Mr. Rucker to now, is that your identity is not set in stone. Like you don't have to just be an army officer. You don't just have to be an airline pilot. You can get into all the things you want. The only thing stopping you from doing really anything in this world is you. With all the things that I've been doing. And really you just have to believe in yourself, ask for help from people who are smarter than you, and just learn a new skill. It's really fun, And so I'm 35 now. Like I love this fitness stuff, but I'm pretty sure by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna have another journey of mine. I'm about to have a child, so I'm about to be a parent. That's gonna be another journey that I'm gonna lean into. So that's where I'm at right now. Is that a good enough bio?
Love it. There's so much stuff to talk about in there. Thanks for sharing all that with us. It's super interesting. And first, congratulations on impending fatherhood.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I'm a little bit further down the road. I have three adult sons. My wife and I have been together for 32 years, and our sons are 30, 27, and 25 now.
Okay.
And I say both congratulations and condolences because both of them are appropriate.
Okay, good.
I want to go all the way back to fake ass people because I think
Yeah,
that's such a great place to start. One of the things, so like our podcast is entirely about you get to choose. And like you just said it so well in all of the things you were touching on. You get to choose how you react to situations that happen to you. You get to choose what you do and don't do. That's entirely on you, but you have to take control of it. There's a lot of things you have control over that you're choosing not to exercise control over. And there's a lot of things you have no control over that you're spending an inordinate amount of time, effort, and energy focusing on when you, by definition, can't control them. So, fake ass people. One of the things I figured out fairly early on in my life is that almost everybody is full of shit.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear your perspective. How, like, you're surrounded. I lived in the LA area for 2 years, by the way. I lived in Oxnard, Camarillo area for a year, and then I lived in Long Beach for a year. And that culture is vapid, is the right way to say it. Like, there's not a lot real about that culture, but you grew up in the middle of it. How did you recognize, wait, this is, what the fuck is going on here? These people aren't real. How did that resonate with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I gotta really, I don't remember what triggered it. Um, like I was raised Catholic, so I'm no longer like religious. That's another kind of joke I say. But I can think back to even just being in, sorry to Catholic listeners. It's not a judgment on you. It's just my lifestyle. I just
Yeah.
was like, I think it started there, just going to Sunday school, and my parents were physicians, and I even remember as a kid coming home because I asked in Sunday school, and they were talking about, Adam and Eve, the creation of the earth, all the animals, plants, and whatever. And I asked the question, I'm like, but are we animals too, technically? And I remember being like, come over here, like let's talk. And I got like pulled aside from the group and intervention from the Sunday school teachers to like rid that idea and get rid of it. And I just was like, this is weird. Like at the time, I didn't realize it was a cult, but but as a kid, you're like, it just seems like an honest question. And their reaction to it was totally bizarre. It was like this like overreaction to that question. I think that was the first hint of, you know, using rational questions, like innocent questions like that. I think I was like maybe 11 or 10. And the overreaction from adults that piqued my interest from that. And, just fake ass people. I don't know, just, the kids that I went to school with in high school, all high performing, all the APs and whatever, just the pressure these kids were on to do something that their parents would approve of. And there were kids that their first language was Spanish because their maids taught them Spanish before their parents could teach them English. That was, those are the little like breadcrumbs I guess I saw growing up in specifically wealthy Southern California, where I was like, this doesn't feel right. These parents are having kids as almost accessories to their life.
Yeah.
And I think I saw that. I saw the religious piece and I was like, that's kind of weird. And, in high school, just, high school's fake because we're all insecure little kids running around. But just the way that was it, what kids my age and my peer group were doing is they were doing everything they can to go to USC, UCLA, or go to quote good school, to
Yeah.
the accolades. Oh, I got into Yale or whatever. And if you went to a state school, it was like, oh, you must be stupid, and like that like attitude with that. And and these kids that were, even going to USC, I'm like, these kids are dumb as rocks and their parents have money. That's really all it is. And I could see through that. And I remember I got in trouble for this. I was 13 or 12 or 13. I was in seventh grade, and they were doing a book drive. And they said, bring your books in. We're going to give them to inner city kids and whatever, whatever. I remember it was insensitive at the time, but also I just said, well, what are they going to use these books for? Bulletproof? The inner city? Like, are we really helping them? Or are we just like, once again, I got in huge trouble. They pulled me aside, like, that's so insensitive of you to say. And I was like, I understand, like, it's unsensitive. Like, of course we want to help kids, but what they need is like a safe environment, not books. What are we doing about helping these kids? in high school, like we played intercity football teams, and it was like, damn, you do not want to hang out around that high school after dark. Like, you
Yep.
get on the bus and get out of there. And that's their reality, just totally different realities in Southern California. You go past aviation, you go past, some key like throughways eastbound, like it gets really rough quick. And I think that's another thing. I was like, why is that? We pretend like we're in this bubble here, and there's a totally different world less than 2 miles away from here where there's crime, drugs, poverty, kids struggling, and we pretend like it doesn't exist and we're going to give them books. Like it was like we're doing a book drive for ourselves. How fake as fuck is that? So we feel good, but we don't want to solve the problem, or we don't want to really talk about the problem. And so I don't know. Those are the things that I can think of that popped out in my, I don't know, pre-18 observations in Southern California.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I always think about, are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't dictate it to you, but yeah, I kind
Yeah,
of
the neither could I, but the general concept makes a ton of sense to me. So, we talk about it on the channel a lot, but for the listeners that are new that haven't, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is essentially a pyramid that says you have specific needs in your life and you have to satisfy the most basic, most carnal ones first
sure.
before you can move up the pyramid.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I look at the last election, and let me just get right out up front. I've never been a registered member of either party.
Me
So
neither.
I fundamentally disagree with both parties on so many things. I can't call myself either one of them.
Yep.
So this is not targeted at anyone in particular. However, when I heard democracy is the most important thing on the ballot, I knew the Democrats were fucked, because I own businesses in the south side and west sides of Chicago. I lived in LA during the Rodney King riots.
Yeah.
I've always been like, I'm a big white Irish guy. I'm 6'3", 220. I went through college on a baseball scholarship. So my experience in the world has been different than a lot of the people that I've been around. But I'm not stupid, and I've got eyes.
Yeah.
And there's people that live without plumbing. There's people that live without electricity. There's people that don't know where they're going to get their next meal from. Do you think they give a fuck about January 6th? I
Yeah.
can assure you they do not, because they've got bigger things to worry about than those things. And that's one of the things that drive me nuts about the people that advocate for those things. I watched a show. I don't even remember the name of the show the people were on. It was on HBO. And it was these 3 or 4 political commentators that, they knew everything because they're really smart, because they've got the degrees and blah, blah, blah. And it shows them sitting in this fucking restaurant drinking like $50 bottles of wine and a $200 charcuterie board, talking about John Q. Public. And I'm like, they really and truly have no idea how fucking moronic they look right now, or
Right.
out of touch with people
Yeah.
they actually are. And I bring all this up because I feel like it's one of the reasons I've been successful, is because I can relate to people and I can be empathetic to what people are going through, which is what you just described, which I think is pretty impressive based on the environment you grew up in and the circumstances you grew up in. Like a lot of people, it's real easy to be the USC BMW baby, right? In those
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah. I guess you're right. And it just bothered me. I can't explain why it bothered me and not someone else. But what you're saying about the parties, I think one of my favorite quotes, I forget who said it. It was, the problem with the Democrats is they always want to be right, and the Republicans just want to win. I was like, you know what? That kind of makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, I'm the same way. Like it really depends on the issue to get your opinion on any
Yeah.
political policy or whatnot. And I agree with you. Like I personally think both parties are out of touch in their own certain
Oh
ways.
yeah.
It's just dare I say the corporations that matter in America. We're in an oligarchy. It's not it's once again, I think fake. I think it's just to make us feel good. And when I was a history major, and you quickly realize that Americans have a very short memory.
Oh yeah.
And for whatever reason, I think that's part of our culture for a reason as well, because it's easy to control. it's easy to control a population that forgets big things quickly. Whether it's January 6th or something else, like it's not, either way, both parties. You just, Obama's Flint thing with the water, like that was insane.
Right.
Like, you just forget about that. Oh, well, and so I think, we as a country have been put under a spell to be either not care or care about things that don't really matter. And people who are smart and want to take advantage of that have been really, I think, since World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally agree. I want to pivot to the flashcards. That's super
Yeah.
interesting to me. So kudos to Mr. Rucker, by the way, for
Yeah.
exposing you to the flashcards. I am a big fan of repetition,
Yeah.
and repetition builds confidence, and it absolutely builds both competence and confidence, which like they're joined at the hip. So, talk a little bit about how that experience impacted you, not only in school, but my bet would be you applied that same logic to other areas of your life.
Yeah. I agree with you. So like flashcards, rote memorization is what the army would say. And man,
Yep.
like you're in flight school, they take that to another level. I still have phrases that are etched into my brain because what you'd have to do is lost a tail rotor. Like you would show up to flight school at 5 in the morning and you'd get there and they expect your homework was to memorize verbatim, word for word, letter for letter, period, paragraph. We're talking long-winded technical explanations of certain things about an aircraft. And for example, loss of tail rotor effectiveness is the uncommanded and uncontrolled left turn, like that. I can remember that first phrase for the rest of my life. And you'd have to stand up in front of the class and say it. And it's just a lot of pressure. It's early in the morning. You studied it all last night, and you got to stand up and say it word for word, or else you get shunned, right? Like, oh, that's wrong. You're a loser, like whatever. That public humiliation and rote humiliation, they took it to another level. It was good, but flashcards and rote memorization leads to understanding. You may not understand a concept, but if you can write it down word for word, or if you can repeat it back, it becomes like a part of you. And the next, I had great history professors. That's why I did history in school. And another great history instructor I had in AP history in high school. He took it one step further. He said, when you take notes, you need to take notes in your own words. So memorize these things, but when it comes to a concept, I want you to take notes by actually writing it out in your own words, because then it forces you to internalize the information and spit it back. So it's kind of the next level. Rote, and then once you understand the rote, explain it back in your own way. Because then that really not only demonstrates that you understand it, but you'll never forget it. And it goes into kind of what Einstein, I think, has said is that no concept is too complex if you can't explain it to a 10-year-old.
Yep.
Can't explain something to a 10-year-old, then you don't know whatever concept you think you know well enough. And I think that's ties it all together. And I applied it, with history, obviously, but any course, anything I did. And back to Forrest Gump. You need to know these 100 phrases verbatim. I sure as shit stayed up late writing it out over and over in my notebook. I would write it out 6 times, word for word, and then come back to it in the morning. And I just was lost to tail rotor effectiveness. I was single engine failure. I was an auto rotation. Like I could just spit it out, even though I didn't quite understand it. But then you go practice the maneuver and the aircraft, and like, oh, and they say a left leaning tendency. Oh, I feel that. And so now it
Mm,
means something. And so it kind of it's the hard work that I was looking for that led somewhere. And like with most things in life, it's not fun, it's not sexy, it's learning words and writing them in a notebook over and over again. But that led to me being really good at flying. And just like anything else, it's even in fitness. So many people want to do the big fancy thing. They want to buy the nice Peloton at their house with the lady on the bike yelling at you because it looks fun and exciting and it's expensive and blah 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 blah. But like really all you need to do is go for a fucking walk every day.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Like that's free. But so many, marketing aside, like people don't want to hear that. People are under this spell that they're just one sexy thing away from their health being figured out. And it's not the case. Just like flashcards. You're not one tutor away. You're not one notebook or computer or thing from being better at school. You just literally have to do this shit that no one else is willing to do.
I
And
love that. So I call it the compound interest of life.
yeah,
And that seems to make sense to people because they understand compound interest as it relates to money. At least they get the concept. A lot of people don't actually work the concept, but they understand it. And if you do something over and over again, you're going to get really good at that particular thing. So if you eat healthy proteins and vegetables much more than you eat processed foods, you're going to wind up healthy. Like just period. You just will. And you don't have to do more than that. If you did that and did what Scott's talking about, going for a walk every day, like whatever, start with 5,000 steps, start with 2,000 steps. It's better than no steps and work your way up to 10,000 steps a day. If you did those two things, you'd be healthy forever, you know?
the number one narrative especially as an online coach, online gets this bad rap. They're like, what is that? It's got to be false because they're thinking back to their like online college degree that was bullshit and they just
Yeah.
skipped through all the slides. What really online training is excuse me, holding my clients accountable to everything outside of the gym. Because 90% of your progress happens outside the gym, whether it's
Yep.
building muscle or losing fat, because of what we're talking about. So many people want to build codependence with their Peloton or with their in-person trainer, and they're never going to get that far. What I love about online training is that it forces you to take accountability when I ask, my app shows if you did your steps. Did you hit 10,000 steps today? You can't hide from it.
Yeah.
And I'm not there to do it with you, nor should I have to be. And that, I get clients who are like, Scott, I want more workouts. Oh, Scott, I want this really cool workout. I want to do this now. I want to get ready for the hydroxy 5,000. I want to get ready for a marathon. Like those are all big, sexy, fun goals to do. But if you're not like keeping track of what you're eating, who cares? And I know that's not fun. I know that maybe logging food is tedious, but like these tedious things aren't tedious for very long if you just do them. Because then you understand them and you do it without thinking about it, right? That's the power of, you know, practice, right? Is that it becomes easier over time. Thank goodness, right? Our brains are wired to learn. And when you do the little things like your life depends on it before the big things, man, you just really stand out. And I just totally agree with you. It's that compounding interest of doing the little things every day, whether it's in your business, whether it's in fitness, whether it's whatever thing you want to get better at, scale it back. What are the little things? What are the fundamentals that are required for success? And don't skip those. Just get really fucking good at those. And then when you add a more complex goal, you just achieve it so much faster. And never fall off the fucking wagon. I hate that phrase. It's like people are, oh, I got in shape and then COVID came and oh dear, and my trainer moved and I lost everything. I'm like, yeah, because you built codependency with something. You didn't actually learn anything. You just said, oh, I got a trainer who comes to my house. He's going to make me fit. Well, he's going to help, but I fundamentally want people to be empowered when they work with me and when it comes to fitness because I'm not ashamed to say you can learn to do this on your own. You don't
Yeah.
need me for the rest of your life. You might need me right now as your guide to better yourself, to get you in a position to understand these concepts through repetition and practice. And so I can answer your questions, so I can steer you in get to the other side of the mountain without going through the swamp. You can do it on your own. You can go through the swamp and get stuck and take 10 years to get there. Or I'll be your Sherpa and I'll just guide you on the path and we'll get to the other side of the mountain and you know that path and you could go back and transverse that mountain all day because you did it once with me. And that's how I run my company. I started this company because I want to help people. I fundamentally disagree with other trainers, or other fitness programs, other GLP-1s, Ozempic, whatever the fuck
Oh,
the billion-dollar fitness industry doesn't want to say is that they don't want you to solve your problem. They just want your money. They want your problem solved as long as it's with them and you build a codependence with them and their product. It's great retention. It's a great way to scale a business, but frankly, I think it's ethically bullshit. Fake people, right? I think it's bullshit to think that just because I'm a trainer and I went through the training doesn't mean average person can't learn the fundamentals. They don't need to go through the training I went through to figure this out. My training is to train. It's not this
right.
fundamental like knowledge base that someone's incapable of having. Of course they can. It took me 5 or 10 years on my own to figure this shit out before I asked for help. And that's really all it is. You can do this on your own. But when you ask for help from someone who's just done it, then your experience is just so much better. And you get to miss all the mistakes that I made or any coach or any trainer made before they asked for help and got the training. And so you cannot help someone if they can't do it themselves. Every instructor I've ever had in anything I ever did, whether it was ballroom dancing, flying helicopters, flying airplanes, any job, I work at Staples. At some point, the team lead's going to say, Scott, I taught you how to stock the shelves. Go do it. Everywhere you go. But for some reason with fitness in the fitness industry, we never get there. They never want to say you can do this yourself. And I just really hate that. So
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I went through college on a baseball scholarship. And so I was fortunate that I had great experiences. Chicks love ball players. Like I loved everything about it. And I quit right when I was talking to the Reds, the Cubs, and the Padres about doing a free agent deal and met and married my wife. And because hockey is similar.
yeah.
There's no money in the minor leagues. Like you've got to make it if you're going to make anything. And so I walked right at that point. And people are always like, don't you regret it? I'm like, I don't regret a thing. We've been married for 32 years. I regret nothing. I never once have second guessed myself, but I learned so much valuable stuff that I've applied in the real world that has helped make me wildly successful at lots of different things in the real world. And one of the things that always struck me is the further up I got in the sport, and look, I played with and against Major League Baseball players. The most famous person that I knew that probably everyone knows is Jason Giambi, because I lived in Long Beach at the same time he did.
Oh.
And it's funny because like the first time I saw him on the A's, I turned to my wife. I said, "That guy's on steroids," and she's like, "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "Because I know him. I knew him when he was 6'3", 195, and now he's 6'3", 240, and he was 19 when I knew him. You don't go from 195 to 240 in the weight room without a fucking needle in your ass. You just don't." But the thing that struck me playing at that level and going up was they did the opposite of what I expected to happen. They didn't introduce all these new and more advanced techniques. They did the exact opposite. They fucking hammered on the basics over and over and over again. For example, I was a pitcher and we used to do what's called pitcher's fielding practice, PFP. And we would literally throw a pitch. They would hit a ball to the first baseman, and it was your job to get your ass over to first base and receive the throw from the first baseman. You had to beat the runner there. There was a specific angle you had to take. You had to hit the base with your right foot instead of your left foot. You had to pivot and check the infield with we did it for hours.
Yeah.
Hours. And we were some of the best. I mean, there's only 800 professional baseball jobs on the planet.
Yeah.
And we were all vying for those. We were some of the best baseball players in the world. And that's all we did. Like pitching, the theory behind pitching, the number one theory, don't fucking walk anybody. Like it's that basic. Make them earn it. They get out 7 out of 10 times. The math is on your side. Do not walk guys. And so boil it down, like throw the first pitch for a strike. Tell them what you're going to throw. Tell them here's a fastball down the middle. I want to see how far you can hit it. You'll appreciate this from a hockey perspective. I coached my kids in hockey. And I was a good coach because I'm good at communicating with people and I'm good at blah, 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 blah. But I was trying to figure out a good forecheck because I had a pretty good team that year. I'm like, I want a good forecheck. So I went to a guy I knew that played at Dartmouth. Dartmouth's pretty good hockey.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'm looking for a good forecheck system. He said, look, the best system I ever played in, and this guy was the most basic coach ever. You want to know what his system was? I said, yeah. He said, two on the puck, one guy high. That's your forecheck. Like, what do you mean? He's like, I mean
Oh,
exactly what I said. He
nothing.
send two guys to the puck and somebody plays center field. That's it. That's the forecheck. The two guys need to be relentless. The third is to anticipate. It'll work. I shit you not. It worked
Yeah,
beautifully. That was the system.
yeah. It's
First guy
crazy.
in the zone goes to the puck. Second guy supports him. Third guy goes to the fucking blue line right in the middle.
Yeah.
High crease.
And to finish your analogy with what you were saying with the what was it called with the pitchers?
PFP, pitcher's fielding
PFP,
practice. Yeah.
fucking passing
Hmm.
hockey. Holy shit. Like you go to an NHL game, those dudes are tape to tape in the and no one's clapping. Everyone thinks it's just like this is the boring part of the game, but the ability to as a forward or a defenseman to pass accurately under pressure or moving on a forecheck, oh my god, like those guys, like that's how you get to the NHL. You have to pass. Nobody cares about your slap shot. Nobody cares how much you can dangle. Nobody cares about your speed because man, the puck moves a lot faster than a human, and if you can get the puck to the right human accurately every time. I had a neighbor who was on the Wild and on Nashville, and it was a funny story. Like he had a Jeep, I had a Jeep. I was like, "Hey man, nice Jeep." And he's like, "Yeah, cool." So we were like Jeep guys in the apartment we lived in.
Yeah.
One day, he popped the trunk and he had a hockey bag in there. I was like, "Oh, cool, you play hockey?" And it said Canadians on it. I'm like, "Oh, Canadians your favorite team?" And he's like, oh, "Well, no, I play there." And I was like, "You're on the Canadians? Like their farm team?" He's like, "No, I'm a defenseman." I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I'm like, "I played in college. I haven't played in a few years." And so we started. He's like, "Well, come on out. Let's come out to a practice." I was a goalie. Well, we could use a goalie. We're usually empty net. And I'm like, "Sure, I'll come skate out." I'm not what I was. Right, my hips are no longer what they used to be. But just seeing the drills that they would do. This was in the summer. Like this is on their own time. This is not sanctioned Wild or Canadians training. This is just like we got to go work on some shit this summer in the off season. And like their passing drill is just over and over and over. And like I would get one shot in 5 minutes. They would just cycle. They literally focused on cycling the puck in the corner.
Mm.
15 minutes before they would take a shot. Just three guys cycling, drop pass, cycle, drop pass, cycle, drop pass, and just over and over. So same thing. Basic stuff that the average fan does not even notice or care about, but those basic fundamentals is what makes them the best in the world.
Yeah. So I lived in New Hampshire for 15 years, which is where I coached hockey.
Cool.
And we were really fortunate. Bank of America put on a coach clinic, and they actually had the head coach of the Monarchs,
Cool.
who at the
Yeah,
they are, but at the time they were the
yeah.
Kings. Uh, and he did a coaching clinic, and not only did he cover kind of the theory of coaching, and it was funny because he's like, you guys are all responsible for player development. I don't give a shit about the rest of what you do. Your job is to develop players. He said, my job is to develop players. If it's my job, it's your job. And so they took the boards off, and we went down and watched him do a practice, and he was like, he had a mic on, was talking about what they're working on. So he skates over. We're sitting right behind the player benches, and he skates over to the blue line where we're all sitting. And he's like, "These guys are pretty good, huh?" And we're like, "Fuck yeah!" I mean, you've seen it; they're amazing when you get out there. Like, how do they do it? He's like, "These guys aren't good enough to play in the NHL. When I get them, they're not even close." He said last year when we got our defenseman, we spent the first two practices, the whole practice, with our defenseman. All we did was dump pucks into the corner and had them retrieve, because they don't know how to retrieve correctly. And there are two things are going to happen. One, they're going to get fucking buried and then somebody's going to get hurt. And two, they're going to turn the puck over, and all of a sudden we've got a fucking melee in front of the net.
Yeah.
So for two whole practices, all we did was dump pucks and had them go retrieve. And we were correcting things over and over and over again. And that was like, it just reinforced all the stuff that I had in my head from my experience in a different sport, that this is about the basics. So I'm spending a bunch of time on this because I think it's super important. I want to pivot now to jet set training because,
Yeah.
like you talked about, it's more than just training, but at its core, you preach basics and fundamentals over and over and over again to people. I could tell from your website.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not the sexiest thing ever to preach or even get people to want to train with you, but it's
Only
the
if you like success.
yeah, it's the truth. And I actually it's the bedrock of any successful fitness program because what I see other programs do or other, you know, I'm gonna P90X or I don't know, V Shred or whatever. Follow this plan, eat this food, get abs in 60 days, rah, right? And it's like some of it, yeah, like it's there's some fundamentals in there that tell you to do it, but it's like they're teaching obedience. They're not teaching nutrition. They're teaching obedience. They're not teaching like muscle growth. They're teaching you to follow, which yes, there's some rote memorization, but it's very, very, very little. You're not ever explaining why you're doing this. Like, what is this doing to your body? And providing the why with walking, for example. I love walking because walking burns mostly fat because it's an oxidative system. Walking requires oxygen. In fact, you have multiple stages of your metabolic process when you do stuff. Like when we played in the sports, like you're sprinting to first, like you are going into your ATP CTP cycle. You're not burning fat to get to first and make that play. Or if there's a breakaway and someone's coming on me as a goalie, you are 100% ready for that quick, stack save or whatever.
Yeah.
Our athletic background isn't really geared towards fat loss. It's geared for performance, which is your glucose and ATP cycle. Um, but for I mean, airline pilot just trying to feel confident taking my shirt off at the beach, your ass needs to walk because you're burning pure fat. Because you're in a low zone in your breathing. Best thing I ever learned is if you're ever doing any type of cardio and you can't hold a conversation with someone next to you, you're actually doing too much.
Mm.
You're actually burning more carbohydrates or glucose that's stored in your liver and muscles to do the exercise. And you're still burning fat, you're burning all three, but it's a spectrum. You start to shift more towards glucose. And then when you run out of glucose, you start to actually burn muscle. And so people get like myself, they go miles and miles, they do HIIT training, they kill themselves, they do this really intense training thinking they're burning fat when really they're burning some fat, but they're burning a ton of muscle and they're actually the best way I can explain it. You like cars? You car guy?
My wife is a car person. I understand cars,
You
but
understand miles per gallon,
oh
MPG?
yeah, sure, yeah,
Sure. So when we do lots of HIIT, when we do like stuff that you and I did in college for performance, right?
yep.
You're teaching your body metabolically to do more with less. Do more with less oxygen because you're sprinting to the ball. Do more with less oxygen because you're skating full speed on that 45-second shift. So when you start applying that ideology to average Joe land, it doesn't end up well and it leads to kind of a skinny fat condition because you are losing weight so you can perform the exercise well, but you're teaching your body to do more with less. But you're still eating, I don't know, Taco Bell every other night after work. Nothing wrong with Taco Bell. You can lose weight on Taco Bell. But you have lowered your MPG metabolically with the type of exercise you've been doing. So you're going to be more prone to actual visceral fat. You're going to be more prone to be caught in this cycle. Or you may be prone to getting maybe fast results, but gaining it back really quick the second you
Mm.
stop because you get hurt or you take a week off. Or nobody can do CrossFit 5 times a week reasonably without an injury at over 30, in my opinion. I know the CrossFitters are hating me for saying that, but like it's true. There's some diminishing returns with CrossFit, and that is the number one thing is that you're teaching your body to do more with less. And if you're not changing your diet, man, you're just setting yourself up to get hurt and get fat quicker. And that's why walking is not sexy. You're not sweating together, doing your wad of the day, and everyone's, I love that. Like I do love those workouts, the group fitness stuff. Like it's fun, but do it because it's fun, not because you actually want to lose fat. And so that's where I was going with that is that, You want to turn your body into a 1995 Chevy Suburban that burns oil. That's what the average human should do. If you're not in a professional, if you're not getting paid to play a sport,
Yeah.
that's that's the most sustainable thing. And how do you do that? You put on more muscle because muscle takes a lot of energy, and your body, from survivalist standpoint, is only going to build enough muscle for what the demands you put on it because it knows if you build a lot of muscle, there's a famine, you're in the ice age, you run out of food, you're really setting yourself up to be in a deficit energy wise. And so your body does not want to build muscle. It wants to do the least amount of the most amount of work with the least amount of muscle possible. And that's what, our program's on with this backdraft metabolic process that I talk about. We want to, you should be burning fat watching Netflix at home after work.
Mm.
You're going to be burning way more fat just existing through homeostasis if you carry more muscle. It's currency for life. And a great way to keep muscle is to walk, not run. I'm not saying don't ever run again. It's important to do some intense cardio, but you really don't need to do it more than a couple times a week. And that's just a more sustainable way, right? Especially for me as an airline pilot. I don't have time to do CrossFit gyms. I don't have time to get on anyone else's schedule. My schedule changes every week. And I know a lot of busy professionals out there too. They got kids, they got to drive, they got to go to the office. And if you can solve this problem without a fitness gym, or you can solve it without signing up for I don't know, a high intensity group, the more the merrier, right? Because then you can do the occasional CrossFit. Then you can do the Orange Theory when you feel like it, just for fun to get a sweat or whatever. But you are actually making most of your progress just by walking and watching what you eat. Does that all make sense? The analogy with the car. We want to make that Chevy Suburban to where you're getting 8 miles to the gallon on the highway, 8 miles to the gallon around the city. Or what you get is 8 miles to the gallon. That is what we want your metabolism to do for you in our first world where food is abundant, because then you can have beer, you can have pizza, you can have a life and eat the foods you already do and still look great and still feel great because your muscle absorbs all of that energy.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. Totally love it. And you're right. There's this attraction or sexiness to again, I got nothing against CrossFit either. I don't understand the point of getting good at exercising, and that's what CrossFit feels like to me.
It's professional exercise. They you know what? They crush American Ninja Warrior or whatever. Good for them. Like,
Right.
it's an impressive to the professional CrossFitters are athletes, and it's really impressive what they do. It doesn't mean it's for George who works a 9 to 5.
Or that it's all that healthy. I
Yeah,
look at the number of injuries and joint injuries and
yeah. As
like
you
it,
get older,
yeah.
your deck starts to get a little slimmer. And yeah, like, once again, I'm not saying never do CrossFit again or ban CrossFit gyms from existing. There just needs to be some transparency on what is this really doing for me, and what are your goals as an individual. Is your goal to compete in the CrossFit games? Great. I could say the same thing for powerlifting, like in the gym. Some guys who are like trying to squat 400 plus pounds and they're over 40. I'm like, why?
What are you doing?
Like, all those guys have these injuries, and I'm like, your ego is going to be intact, whether it's 200 pounds. Personally, I don't even back squat anymore, really. I don't back squat over 225. There's no
Yeah.
reason, for me, there's no reason to go past that. You can get a hell of a workout with a moderate amount of weight on any barbell lift, deadlift, bench, back squat, just by changing your reps and doing quarter reps. Like, those are killer. And you just,
Changing your grip.
yeah, reducing the stress on your joints, reducing the back load, reducing that need to have absolute perfect form on your max. Like, who fucking cares? Just me. But, powerlifting, and that's what you want to do it to be stronger, but don't do it thinking that you're gonna maybe look great or feel great. There's a cost to that. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I so I had that mentality for a long time as an adult because that's what I was used to. Like I was used to doing a workout like I was still trying to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And so that's what it meant to me. If I wasn't doing that, I wasn't pushing myself hard enough. I wasn't working hard enough. I was underachieving. And that's what I loved when I kind of looked through your website and the way your approach to things is this is for the vast majority of people who have normal lives. And I would call people that have to travel a lot having normal lives. Like salespeople travel a lot, pilots travel a lot. There's lots of people that spend a lot of time on the road where their schedule shifts and changes. And you can make excuses about that all you want, but if that's your natural existence, that is how you pay your bills and how your life is set up, then you should probably figure out a way to maintain your health
Yeah.
through those things because it doesn't need to be either or. And I'm a person that's made that sacrifice. I'm a person that said, fuck sleep. I got to get work done.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep 4 hours a night for the next month and a half. And I've done that. It's not good. I'm not glad I did it. And it's had repercussions for me now that I'm in my 50s. But like, that's not a healthy approach. That's what I loved about your approach was this is for everyday normal people that have crazy schedules that change, but you have to take responsibility for your health and for your fitness. And I can help you learn how to do that.
Yes, and honestly, like I love working with people like you said who maybe even hate exercise. I'm like,
Mm.
you're my person because I want to give you something that you can hold on to that you see as not as exercise, but it's just a habit, something you do because you enjoy it. Because it's not exercise. It's not like trying to get yoked or trying to maybe even have six pack abs. It's just like I want to feel better and look better and eat, have a glass of wine with my wife once a week and not feel guilty about it. Like I never ban food from people. Like if somebody came to me and said, you know what, Scott, every Friday after work, I go with the boys, we get some drinks, have a cigar, and I get this like triple bacon stacked cheeseburger. I'm like, great, we're gonna keep it. We're gonna find a way to keep that in your life. Can't have it every day, right?
Right.
And the other exciting thing that I've since we last talked that I've been including in my program is more functional health stuff, meaning biometrical health, because our first world existence wreaks havoc on our metabolism, on our hormones. Low T is prevalent now earlier and earlier in men. There's so much gut health science that's coming out every day, and I'm now addressing some of those concerns with every single client that I have. And every new client that works with me gets a biometric health evaluation, which is kind of like a personality test if you've ever taken those. They ask you the same question, maybe four or five different ways to kind of bring out the truth of who you are.
Yeah.
Very similar to that, but with symptoms like how often do you go to the restroom? How often what is your sleep like? Do you wake up in the middle of the sleep? Do you fall back asleep easily? Like they ask you multiple questions on your kind of everyday life stuff that may on the surface sound reasonable, not like you're dying or you're unhealthy, but it prints out a sheet that shows adrenal fatigue. It shows like high levels of cortisol, shows possible issues with hormone regulation, possible issues with your liver. That was something I learned. My liver wasn't working great.
Mm.
Glucose regulation. You may not be diabetic, but that doesn't mean you don't struggle processing glucose for one reason or another. And learning that right out of the gate when you start to train someone is so helpful because then we can start treating those with actual food and supplements that are geared towards your individual malfunction. Because the reason how I got there is I've had clients who were fantastic, did everything I asked, lose 20 pounds, and they likely had 20 more to go, but it stopped. There's a plateau. They were doing their steps, they were tracking their food, they were being active, they're doing all the fundamentals that we've been talking about, but they were still stuck. And so, me trying to be a better coach, why is that? Well, those clients had some severe uh, hormonal issues that we didn't know about until we tested. And so, I'm trying to heal you not only with your habits from the inside out now. And so many of us have dysfunction with our liver and dysfunction with some key metabolic traits that traditional healthcare just doesn't address, for my opinion, is because they can't prescribe you
That's
something.
right.
It's not bad enough to hospitalize you or prescribe you something, then you're, quote, normal. Doesn't mean you're still struggling with belly fat, though, for the same reason, because your body's struggling to process glucose, which is leading to inflammation, which is turning this cycle, this excess glucose turning into fat more than the average person who's healthy and it's working great. Women have this a lot too with childbirth and going through menopause and whatnot. It wreaks havoc on their metabolism. And, so many women struggle just starving themselves and not seeing results. And it's a lot of times due to these deeper problems that are largely ignored by the greater medical community because it's not prescribable. It's considered, and frankly, as we get sicker and sicker, being sick now becomes normal. Being sick
Yep.
and getting back to ideal vitality is no longer something that people think are possible. So many people deal with chronic inflammation and chronic, even just eczema, for example. You're given steroids. You're not actually given a regimen to lower inflammation with food, because you can be asymptomatic with, you know, something like eczema and it never comes back because you fixed your diet or because you fixed a dysfunction going on with glucose. So you're no longer having that eczema popping up from that general inflammation in your body. I could go, this is all new, and I'm just really excited to offer that now too, to be an all-purpose solution. So when you leave me, you have a system that works for you, but you like on a cellular level are never been stronger and more functional.
Yeah. I saw that on your website, which is very cool. I've heard it said, and I can't remember where I heard it, but I agree with it 100% that exercise is the least prescribed medication in the world, and food is the most overused drug in the world. And I think that's, at least in the United States, it's very clearly true to me. And so many of the problems that a lot of us face are self inflicted because we don't have the right combination of those two things in our life. And I'd be curious to hear from your perspective, how do you coach? Like, nobody wants to live like a fucking Franciscan monk and, just eat wheat germ and drink
Sure.
water. However, caloric intake matters. And on an overall basis, eating enough of the right food so you get the right balance of fats and carbohydrates and proteins matters. But how do you coach people to think about that and balance that in their everyday
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, so calorie counting kind of has it's a loaded experience for some people, especially women. The minute you bring up calories, all of a sudden the hands start to tremble and they're like, I can't do that. Like I can't calorie count leads to unhealthy eating. It leads to being obsessive over food and all valid fears. Not saying you can't go overboard with the calorie counting, counting calories in your ketchup, right? Like that's a level that woo, let's take a step back. And so it's a common experience for people who work with me because I do ask to track what you eat.
Yeah.
Here's how I try to overcome that. Finance and food are very similar. You have calories in, calories out, but when someone says to me, well, Scott, like calorie counting, I just am not, I don't believe in it. I think it's leads to obsessive eating. Okay. What I'll ask is, well, do you have a budget? Like, do you manage your finances? Well, yeah, Scott, of course. Why do you do that? Well, because, money's really important, right? You gotta save money, pay off credit cards, do all the personal finance, which is another discussion in America, people doing that's also an issue. But everyone likes to at least nobody ever has told me, Scott, having a budget is leads to obsessive money behavior. I can't do that. Nobody says that. Everyone says, well, yeah, I have a budget. And like, so you're willing to track your money, but you're not willing to track your food? Is there maybe a way that you can track food that's not obsessive the way that you track money? Because you don't strike me as someone who pulls out the spreadsheet at the grocery store.
Right.
Grocery store and know that you spend $200 to $500 a month or whatever it is on groceries and you make enough to afford it, right? Most people could say, yes, Scott, I know what my
Right.
grocery budget is and I can't afford it. And it's not something I bust out the abacus to make sure if I can buy. If you're fortunate, obviously some people are struggling with finances and food and they can't, like we said earlier. But the average person, at least the client who has the means to train with me, generally doesn't do that at the grocery store when they're or buying gas or whatever. And so that's how I kind of break down that narrative. It's not about going out to dinner, bringing your private scale with you, and asking the waiter to put all the ingredients on your scale before the chef makes me my fettuccine alfredo. That is not what I'm asking my clients to do.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to do is use a nice app like MyFitnessPal because some obsessive person out there has done that and done the work for you to their own detriment, but for your benefit. And you're going to type in Cheesecake Factory chicken Alfredo and just hit go. And someone's going to pop up with your 800-calorie meal from the Cheesecake Factory, and you're going to log it and you're going to move on with your day. Now, maybe it's not a name brand restaurant. Maybe it's a fancy restaurant where someone hasn't taken the time to obsessively log their, I don't know, beef Wellington or something.
Yeah.
I don't care. Search beef Wellington. If nothing comes up, use your best judgment of what's in it. And frankly, if it's at a fancy restaurant, add minimum 2 tablespoons of butter. You know?
Right.
And then move on. And that's what I have a client right now, actually. He travels he lives in Huntsville. He works with the government. He goes to Europe and back, and he has to eat out, and he has to do the luncheons and stuff. And that was a really stressful thing for him. And so my advice to him or anyone else is log something, and you're just going to get better at it the more you log. You're building that library in your head of what does this really cost? For me, I call it the Chipotle calculator because you go to Chipotle, anything you order there is going to be 800 calories.
That's right.
Anything you order there. I love Chipotle. It's one of my favorite fast food places that you're stuck in. Like, hey, let me get something that's not McDonald's, Chipotle.
Yep.
But you should, based on the things that you eat from each Chipotle because it's available, that's what 800 calories should feel like for the type of food you're eating. So when you go out to eat, start asking that question. My Chipotle calculator. Is this about like a Chipotle burrito? Whatever I log this evening should be at least 800 calories, and then I'm going to move on. That is far and away mind-blowingly helpful when it comes to losing fat, as opposed to, well, it's not my fitness pal. I'm not going to log it, so I guess this day's a loss. Just like you wouldn't do that going, I don't know, to Best Buy or buying a TV and say, I don't know what it costs. Swipe.
Yeah, right.
So everyone knows it's easier with money because there's a price tag, but food doesn't come with the price tag. It requires you to kind of be like a broker of televisions. I think this new plasma screen's probably, you almost kind of have to be an adjuster for a home when it comes to food. You got to look at the house and say, what is that house worth? It's at least $450. So that's what it should go for. You kind of have to look at food when you eat out kind of like that. You have to be an expert. And the only way you do that is by logging the food at your own house, that you know what it costs.
Practice. Imagine that.
Practice. Eat out a lot. Man, you're going to get really good at, because I have to eat out a lot. I have to order. You get really good at kind of swagging what food costs, and you start to see results. So I guess, does that answer your question on how we kind of help with that?
No, that's great. And the only comment I would add to that is it's rare for something to happen by accident. Mm-hmm. It almost always happens because you focus on it and choose to make it happen. So as an accident, I didn't know why this worked, but I knew it worked for me. So I'm super Irish. I got a bad temper. I don't drink at all. Like, that's just, it's not good or bad. It just is. I've never been drunk in my life. It's just not something I was interested in. Sure. And again, not a value judgment, just statement of fact. But the temper has been a problem for me my entire life. Always has. And so participating in sports, you got to learn to control that temper, because you've got to be under control to perform the way you need to perform to be effective. Right. And so before every pitch I threw, starting at about the age of 13, 14, I figured out that if I took what I called a cleansing breath before I did anything, before every pitch, it worked really well for me. So in through the nose, that was it. And then I would get my sign from my catcher and I would go. Well, I didn't know that I was resetting my central nervous system and re-engaging my prefrontal cortex and calming my amygdala down and stimulating my vagus nerve when I did all that. I just knew it worked. I got lucky.
Yeah.
and stumbled across something that worked.
Yeah.
Almost everything else that's happened good in my life has been intentional on my part. I have worked my ass off and done things over and over and over again until I figured out the best way to do it. And that's all it is. You've got to remove the emotion from food. And I get
Yeah.
it. There's throughout history, what do people do to celebrate? They have a feast. What do you
Yeah.
do after you have a wedding? You have a dinner. What do you do when something goes good at work? You go out to dinner and celebrate. Totally got it. You can't just divorce emotion and food because there is something communal and friendly and camaraderie building about it. But it can't be the end all be all. Like you can't let it consume you. And you got to figure out a way to justify those or rationalize those things in your head so that it works for you, you know?
Food, I totally agree. Any food that doesn't make you sick is useful.
Mm,
It is.
yeah.
How useful is it? Depends on what you're trying to do, right? Maybe I don't know. Like my guilty pleasure is like my wife's a baker and she makes some damn good baked goods, and I don't know. She makes these what do we? Oh, cinnamon rolls, homemade.
Ugh.
Favorite, and man, there's not a whole lot healthy about them, but they're healthy for my soul. They're healthy for my relationship. They're healthy for my sanity every once in a while. And it's truly like if you're miserable, like you said, eating like a monk and eating just only perfect food, if it's not making you happy, you can't live like that. And you have to make space. It's another great book I read was from Ramit Sethi, back to finance, how to be rich or whatnot. He said, live your rich life. If you like something, spend a lot of money on the things you really enjoy. You don't have to explain it to anyone. For him, his example is cashmere sweaters.
Mm.
Me, I spend 25 bucks at Target and call it a day and buy a sweater. But for him, he's spending thousands of dollars on cashmere sweaters.
Oof.
But that's his like thing.
Yep.
And he adjusts his finances for it, and he drives a 2010 Honda Accord. So the same we can say with food. You can be overindulgent, but if for me, like these cinnamon rolls are the shit, and I'm gonna eat those because they're the shit and I love them. And when my wife makes them, they're the best. You just budget for it. Include it in your food life. And you get to decide what that is. Some people, it's maybe their fancy Frappuccino from Starbucks every morning. They're like, Scott, I don't want to give that up. Okay. If that's the thing, great. We'll make it fit. It's the problem comes in when it's, oh, I got the Frappuccino and I'm going out to lunch. Let's go to In-N-Out. Or, no, coming over for dinner. Let's DoorDash some, I don't know, big plate of pad thai. And there's no intentionality behind it. Or with finance, you got to drive the Land Rover.
Yeah.
Gotta have this, you gotta keep up with the Joneses. You don't really care about any of this stuff, but it's nice and you just want to spend money, like then you're gonna be in a hole or living paycheck to paycheck when you really shouldn't be with the money you make. And so food is very similar. Pick the things that you love, keep making them and ordering them and buying them and eating them, but everything else, find ways to cut your costs. You don't have to go to In-N-Out. You can just make some food and eat it in your sorry break room for lunch. Who cares?
Totally.
Because you're doing that for the cinnamon roll that night or the next morning or whatever. It becomes you live your life more intentionally. And believe it or not, I believe that might be the key to happiness. Right?
I think it's 100% the key to happiness.
You're
Yeah,
in
but
control. And
yes,
we're not, whether it's finance, food, your job, whatever, just be intentional. And there's so many forces at play that don't want you to be intentional. And you pay for it with your health or you pay for it with interest on your credit card. It's the same thing. You're gonna pay for it over time. And if you just take a quick second, like you're saying, even taking that quick breath, do I really need this TV? No, I'll get this 250 TV on Black Friday from Walmart. Who cares? Right? And just taking a
exactly.
breath. Do I really need that In-N-Out? Or is that just convenient right now? Do I really want that? And that's really the power of logging. It quickly forces you to take a second, I love logging food before I eat it. And then I look at my budget. Was that worth it? Is that going to be worth it for me today? Because if I have this double in and out with fries and a Coke, man, I according to my budget, I can't have dinner tonight.
Yeah, right. I can suck on some ice cubes tonight.
Don't want to go through that experience. I don't want in and out that bad.
Yeah.
You start to make those budgetary decisions with your food, and man, like your life changes from a health standpoint. But you're still eating the thing that you love. And that's how you make space for it.
Well, it's got so many other benefits to it as well. So, like in your world, like you don't have a choice a lot of times. So, if you're on, and I don't know exactly how your scheduling works, but you're away from home for multiple days.
Yeah.
So, you don't have the choice of, hey, I'm going to prep my stuff and cart it all around the fucking country as I'm flying airplanes. But a lot of people, let's say you travel a lot and you're at home for 4 days a week, but you're gone for 3 days a week. Let's just use that as an example. For those 4 days a week, if you prepare your own food and or someone you live with prepares your food, however you have it set up, you are going to get two major benefits. One is you're choosing what you put in your body, so you can make choices that work best for you. Like I've got a son that developed diabetes at 29. He never had diabetes. We developed type 1 diabetes at 29. So his pancreas is slowly stopping producing insulin. I mean, it was a near day. He was on life support for a couple of days because nobody had figured out what was causing him. We took him in for a blood test and like it quickly went downhill from there. But my point is, he's very intentional about what he eats now because he wants to control his blood sugar. He doesn't ever want to go through what he went through again. So he got that baptism by fire. The other thing, and I hear this argument a lot, that it's a lot cheaper to buy fast food than it is to buy groceries. And that is total fucking bullshit.
Horseshit.
Total fucking bullshit. And I would add that the choices that you make at the grocery store, like you can buy really good protein and pay a lot per pound. And when you break it down to a cost per serving, it's cheaper than a fucking Big Mac.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper. And
Cheaper.
you can make a healthy and delicious meal for yourself and not suffer the health consequences of pumping your system full of processed shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever someone says it, Scott, I'd love to eat healthy, I can't afford it. It's really what they're really saying is I don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And it's a defense mechanism. And shocking amount of people do not know how to do basic cooking.
Yep.
That's what I've learned. You just in this profession, as I am working with people, like, well, Scott, I've never made dinner for myself. I'm like, what? Like, we got to change that. You cannot live off DoorDash. One, for your wallet, but two, for your health. So yeah, I have to I will quote when I travel, because your example is my life. I go on 4-day, 3-day trips. And I have to figure out what I'm gonna eat, right? And so that's a huge, huge obstacle for a lot of people. I do pack food, but I don't pack every meal, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I pack the tools that are gonna make me the most likely to be successful on that trip. What should I pack? Mostly protein. You can find carbs and fats everywhere. Easy, cheap, easy on your wallet, whatever. And I'm actually more vegetarian, more plant forward. So it's even harder to find plant-based stuff in, I don't know, Louisiana.
Right.
And so I will bring with me stacks of tofu or seitan or I like this Gardein meat crumble stuff. And I will cook the whole bag and have a Ziploc full of it. And that's what's in my lunchbox. It's not actual meals, but tools to be successful to add to the food that I find on the road. I go to Jimmy John's, I bring my tofurkey little deli slices, and I buy those by the pound, and I just slap them on sandwiches. And I just, get their cheap veggie sandwich or whatever and slap my own meat on it. Or you can bring your own meat too. Like if someone's, omnivorous, bring your own home cooked chicken or your own home cooked steak and freeze it. And I got a little lunchbox. It'll, you can add it to the salad you buy or a pasta you buy or whatever. And looking at food as not, I need to literally pack breakfast, lunch, and dinner all in one together. My recommendation is pack the pieces to the meal you will eat, something that's modular. String cheese, low fat string cheese is like 8 grams of protein for like 80 calories. Man, it's so easy. And just little tools and tricks like that is how you should travel with food. Because yeah, you're right. I can't bring a mini fridge with me, and I'm not gonna pack. There's no way I'm packing 8 meals with me. Like it's
Right.
not gonna happen. And so coupling that with packing protein would be my example, or protein powder. I pack a Ziploc full of protein powder, and so far TSA hasn't stopped me. Like, what's this mysterious stuff? Especially, I always get nervous with creatine because I put creatine in a bag and it's a white powder in a Ziploc
Yes.
bag, and I'm like,
Hopefully you're not flying to Colombia when that happens. It
I
could be
know,
bad.
and I'm like, man, is anyone gonna think that I got straight drugs in here? And my wife's like, Scott, that's so sketchy. Why do you do that? I'm like, gotta do it. No, I don't know. I don't know how TSA works, but they've never stopped me. They never stopped me for my supplements or whatnot. They're in a plastic bag, but that's what I do. I bring a shaker, and if it's gonna be a protein powder day, because I'm on the plane for 10 hours, and I guess I'm slamming 3 shakes that day because I I don't have any other option. But is that important to me? It's only one day. It's not the end of the world. Is it ideal? No, but the greater goal, right? It's those little things you do every day, even if it's not a perfect day and you don't hit your protein goal, but you were close because you had those shakes. It's hell of a lot better than just succumbing to, well, I guess I'm going to the pizza place in the terminal and
Right.
days are lost. The all or nothing attitude with this needs to go. No, perfection
Yeah.
is the enemy of good when it comes to all this. You should be
Yes.
searching for
Totally. It's like the analogy I use for that is so if you have a flat tire, would it make sense for you to slash the other three tires and set your car on fire? No,
yeah,
you would change the fucking tire. Like
yeah.
it's not rocket science. There's nothing wrong with indulging every once in a while. Or let's say you have a bad day. Let's say you're tired and things go sideways and you're like, fuck it, I don't have the patience for this. And you stop at Burger King in the terminal. Okay, wake up tomorrow and
Tomorrow's a new day.
start again. So
Yeah.
what?
And guess what? If you did the right thing or close to the right thing for 6 days, who cares?
Exactly.
Who fucking cares? Could it have been better? Yes. You're not being paid to do this. You're not Arnold competing in bodybuilding where, your career's on the line. It's like, look, you're just getting better. And every client I work with, and the first time I talk to him, I ask him this question. When you fail, will you continue to have a good attitude and look for a solution and see this as an opportunity to grow? Because I've run into clients who are maybe type A and they struggle and then they just so fed up they just like I can't log, I can't do this. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. Like you're not supposed to get this out of the gate. You're supposed to struggle through this. That's where the learning happens.
Mm,
You're supposed to go on that trip and go, fuck, I forgot my protein powder. Rather than to say, well, fuck, this whole trip's ruined. It's a new challenge for you. It's a new obstacle.
right.
Go find what you can in the store, and maybe you find out you're 100 grams short every day. Hey, that's good information because now you know that you need 100 grams of protein with you a day to reach your goal. That's
How do I
actually
plug the gap, right?
great. And yeah, it just eliminated. It just showed your gap now where you are, and you're like, well, I was actually packing way too much protein. Now I can pack lighter for this trip. That's actually helpful. So every failure is an opportunity to grow, and especially with health and fitness. Every injury I've ever had, I've learned more about the goddamn human body than I ever knew to begin with. My shoulder, man, I got so good at shoulder rehab, back rehab. My foot, I just had some plantar fasciitis because I overdid some stairs. And it's just an opportunity for me to get better as a trainer and learn something to teach when someone else hurts their foot or someone else rips their shoulder a little bit. It's all a learning experience, and you're never going to arrive. It's always a journey, right? You're
That's
never
right.
going to arrive and things are great. And I think that's the other mindset that I try to get people to move away from. It just because you lost 40 pounds doesn't mean you're done. In fact, that's actually the hardest part is you've got to your target weight. How do you maintain it and keep any semblance of life? because you likely worked really hard to get there. That is the most dangerous time in weight loss is you lost everything, like The Biggest Loser. You see that documentary that just came out?
I did. I watched it.
Perfect example. Like if you lost all this weight, they're looking great. They're going on USA Today and they're talking to Reeves or I don't know, whatever. That is the most dangerous and but most critical time with your health is once you reach your goal, how do you not only maintain that goal, but maybe even come up with a new goal and keep going? Because if you're not going forward, it's so easy to go backwards. And the most important thing I want people to understand when they work with me is I'm not getting you to 200 pounds and you're going to walk away from me. I fully expect to work with you to find that new balance because you and I, even at our worst health wise, we probably weren't on our 600-pound life, right?
Right.
Everyone I meet, when I first meet them, they're very good at the body that they have. Whether it's, let's just pick a number. Like, I don't know, someone's 250, they want to get to 200.
Yep.
Usually that person has been 250 for years. And what I tell them is that you're not 600 pounds. You're 250. That's good. You're really good at that because 600 pounds would be really bad. You're actually really good at 250, which means you have the capacity to be very good at 200.
Right.
You have to have that mindset. You can do this because you do it every day at 250. All we're doing is resetting you this direction. That's it. But just because you lost the weight and get there doesn't mean you're quite reset. You've tapped it. We got to maintain it and we got to build those habits and maybe eat a little bit more food, change our routine so we don't go back the other way. It's this all or nothing attitude where I meet people who say, "Oh, Scott, I don't need you. I know how to lose weight." I'm like, "Well, how many times have you lost weight?" "Well, this would be my fourth time." I'm like, "So, but you don't know how to keep it off."
Right.
Most people, and it's really hard metabolically too because ghrelin, your hunger hormone, it can take up to 2 years for that to completely reset in your body. Meaning, when you get to 200, if you're not careful, that ghrelin hunger hormone is still set to 250.
Yep.
You're gonna have to hold out and keep working on it. At 200, at least for a year or two, for your body to completely make that transformation to saying, I know what 200 feels like. I don't have to log food every day. I don't have to do all the things that I'd worked with Scott, and I can safely say I know how to maintain 200. So
Yeah. You
mindset.
gotta you gotta fall in love with the process, right? It's the
Yeah,
process, it's the habits, it's building your life around those things and making them important and liking that they're important. That's the key. And once you it's a mindset thing. Once you get that mindset right, fuck, it's like gravy at that point, Like it just flows.
it just makes you better at everything else too, right? It's just so applicable. That's why I love fitness. It's so applicable to any goal, whether it's growing your business. That's something I'm learning, right? I'm trying to grow my business and I've been fortunate to have some awesome business coaches who've taught me habits and fundamentals that I do every day with my business that I would have when I started this business, I was brand new trainer, never done online training. I'm like, let's go. I don't know what I'm doing. And I just said, teach me your ways. And I learned their way and I just did what they told me and I got this far. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I got good at this. Now I can add my flavor in, or I can start to understand this more to make it my own, right? And I love business coaching. Like I always have a business coach. Always. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always asking for their opinion. I'm always seeking the advice of someone who has something that I don't have yet. And when I get to what they have, dump their ass and get to the next level, right?
Totally.
Not personal.
Right.
Like, all right, cool. I got a business now. It makes money. You helped me get here. High five. I'm gonna go ask the guy who has more, or lady. I have a female coach right now who has more and has gone to the next step. I want to talk to the NFL coach now. I'm a college coach, and I want to learn what the NFL guys are doing, and so I
Yep.
can maybe be an NFL coach one day. And then you become an NFL coach and you start maybe talking to the Hall of Fame coaches, or I don't know. You're always someone always has more than you, and that's a good thing. You know,
Yes.
a really good thing. It's someone always has more than you, and that's your opportunity to take what they have and get it yourself. It's exciting. I would it would be so lonely to be at the top and say no one has more than me. What do I do now? You know?
Yeah, it's I always say it's too bad you didn't know me when I was 20 because I was so fucking smart when I was 20. I knew everything. And
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot dumber over the years, it turns out. So I'm 53 now, and it turns out I don't know shit. But there's a huge benefit there because there's all these people out there that know so much stuff, and almost all of them are willing to tell it to you for free if you're
Yeah.
willing to ask a couple of questions and then shut the fuck up. And so that's the approach. That's the whole point of my podcast, right? That's what I do is I bring smart, experienced people on who are willing to talk about the things that they've learned and how they've learned them and share those stories. And it resonates with our audience. Like it's not rocket science. And like, I'm the CEO of a company that owns and operates grocery stores. I do this because I love doing it and I learn so much from it. And it's my favorite part of the podcast is I personally get to learn
Yeah.
so much and meet so many awesome people, and it expands my network to
Yeah.
like I've got hundreds of new people in my network now who are so awesome at various different approaches to life. Like, how's that a bad thing? Like, it's so fucking cool, you know?
It is. And you definitely know when someone says they can't afford to eat healthy managing grocery stores.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Qualified.
So we'll have obviously we always include links to get in contact with our guests. So we'll have your website in the show notes as well. But how do other people find you, and where do your customers or your clients come from?
Yeah, some are on social media. You got Instagram, TikTok. I kind of use X, Twitter, kind of not. It's kind of a dying platform, at least for me. But my website's a great place to start, jetsettrainer.com. You can learn more about the product. Shoot me a message. It's pretty easy. If you're interested in training with me, you just fill out a 5-question survey. Just looking for if anyone really, let me put it this way, I don't work with everyone. Just like most business, you shouldn't do business with everyone,
Yeah,
right?
right.
If they want your business doesn't mean they're right for you. And if you're a client, you shouldn't work with any coach or any person. It's really about a match. And the person that I'm looking for to help is somebody who truly doesn't want to be codependent with their health. I want to meet curious, intelligent people who see this as a growing experience to solve a problem in their life and get really good at it, and who are excited at the idea of getting really good at their health so that they can do it and not pay me for the rest of their life. Like I tell it every single person I ask, how long do you want to have a coach for? It's every interview I ask. And they're like, well, I think 2 months or 3 years, or you know what, I always want to coach. And my answer every time is, well, how about as long as you need one?
Hmm.
Right? As long as you need one for the goals that you had. And like I said, with my own personal business coaching, when I teach you everything that I know and you've mastered it, get rid of me.
Yeah.
Go find the next person on your health and fitness journey that's going to get you where you want to go. I'll be the first one to kick you out the door and say, yeah, go to that next person. But I am not here to keep a fat list of clients that rely on me for the rest of their life. So what I'm looking for clients who want to solve this on their own. I want to teach you how to fish when it comes to fitness. I want to teach you how to fly and go fly. Go do it. Because that's what's the most rewarding thing for me is when it's the last phone call with somebody and I'm like, man, we've been through a lot. Look at you. You're an expert. You can go teach your family this. Like it's not just about being my client. I have an individual I just finished with who's in Hawaii. He has a Polynesian background. His family thought he had like cancer because he lost weight with me. They were just like, "Is this? Are you okay? Like you just look so malnourished." Like they're a big family, right? Polynesians are generally big people, and he's teaching his family some of the stuff he's learned. And so that's the coolest part about this. Any skill, right? Is if you can teach someone something, no doubt, if they know it well enough, they're going to teach someone else they care about, and they're going to have that impact beyond me. And that's the first thing my coach told me. He was like, Scott, I'm so happy you got a training business because it came from us, and now you're helping more people. And so that's what I'm looking for, as I'm looking for someone who wants to help themselves and just maybe one day help someone else.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I feel like so we cover a lot of territory on our podcast, and I feel like I ask pretty good questions, but I certainly am not perfect. And
Sure.
so I never want to miss an opportunity with a guest. I always ask if there's any question I have not asked, or if there's any topic we haven't talked about yet that you feel strongly about that you want to talk about while we're in front of the audience. And there's no pressure. If you're good, that's cool too. I just don't want to miss the opportunity when we have awesome people on the podcast because I was too fucking stupid to ask the right question. So
No, I think a good closing statement is kind of maybe what I said at the beginning. Like, the only thing holding you back from what you want is you. I think it's like Henry Ford said, if you believe you can't do it, you're right. But you're also right if you believe you can do it.
that's right. Yep.
It's up to you. Can you do it? Yes. The answer is yes if you believe it. And whether it's fitness, whether it's your own personal development in any career or any goal you have set to yourself, you can do it. And I know you believe that from everything that you've done and the people that you meet every day with this. It's like, people ask me all the time, they're like, man, how did you get into flying? Your parents must be pilots. I'm like, no. Oh, you must have, did you have someone buy you an airplane as a kid? Like, you must have wanted to be a pilot when you were 16 years old. I'm like, no, I had no idea what I wanted to do as a young person. And it really is, you have a dream, you think about it, and then you have to have this internal discussion with yourself and you say, I'm going to do that shit. And don't let anyone tell you you can't, because there's so many people who I meet flying in the airlines, or they find out that I fly and they're like, they think it's this like exotic job that they can't have, but they can. Every person who does not become a pilot isn't because they can't see. It's not because they're too tall. It's not because they don't have enough money. It's because they believed they couldn't get it, so they stopped trying.
Mm.
Well, one reason people don't become pilots is because someone told them they can't do it and they believed them.
Right.
That's it. That's all it is. I fly with some people who are really smart, and some I'm like, how are you here? But you know what we all have in common is we believe we can take this 154,000-pound plane and plant it on some runway safely. We all share that belief. And that's the only reason we're in the flight deck together. So uniquely with airplanes, I had to land a plane never doing it myself. Like, man, you give the controls to a new student who's never done it before, like, you're in for a wild ride. But they believe they can do it. And they may not be able to. You're going to teach them, but they have
Yeah.
to have that belief. And you're going to figure it out. Whether you fail a check ride or you fail at fitness or you fail at these things, it's just an opportunity for you to dig in a little deeper and believe in yourself. So when you do succeed, you're never going to go back ever. And so I think that's all I wanted to say, whether it's fitness, flying, or whatever. The only thing holding you back from what you want is yourself. And what I truly mean by that is you have to have just a irrational even belief that you can do it.
Love it. Yeah, that's a great message to end on. And like I said, we'll have the website for Scott and his business in the show notes. You don't have to go far to find it. Go right down there. You can get in touch with him there. And Scott, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Really enjoyed our conversation. You did a great job, like I knew you would, and really appreciate you taking the time with us.
No, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing it come out and hopefully meet some more people just like yourself, meeting everybody through this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
totally. Awesome. Well, thanks, Scott. Have a great night.
yeah.
Okay, see ya.
Do you need to do a post-show thing, or are we just gonna hang up and call it a night?
No, you're good. I always stay on and do the intro and the outro. It's easier for me to do it right after the episode, and that way James has it one spot when he does the editing. So
Thanks again. I'll
yeah,
talk to you later. Let me know
yeah.
if there's anything from me, okay?
No, totally awesome. Great job. Really appreciate the time.
Appreciate it.
All
Bye.
right, see ya. Okay, guys, there you go. So Scott killed it like we knew he would. We've been excited to have him on. He had to reschedule a couple of times because his life changes when his assignments change. And he was worth the wait for sure. Loved his message, loved the approach he takes on things. And he's trying to empower and teach you and empower you to take control of your health. Both what you consume, how you exercise, how you manage your weight, and just really, really cool. So, Jet Set Trainer website in the show notes. If you're looking to improve your health, reach out to Scott, go onto his website, take his little quiz that will get you started with him and have a conversation with him. So, really appreciate him coming on. Hope you guys reach out to him and check it out. Super impactful stuff available for you there. So James puts it up over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcasts are there. All the social media links are there. We publish a newsletter every weekday you can subscribe to there. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you consume it on. We're going to keep getting awesome guests. They're going to keep giving you all sorts of different advice about all sorts of different aspects of your life that you can take control over if you choose to take control over it. You do not want to miss the awesome guests that we have and the great information they have to help you build the life that you want. So make sure you check out our next episode. We'll see you there.